Because you know that I've been involved in community work before, I've raised money for charity before, and he wanted my opinion on something that he was working on. And he proceeded to put down in front of me a kid's book, an illustrated kid's book. And it was written by Eric Gralnick. My personal hero. Neil had no idea that I knew Eric at all. And I know that this book that was written by Eric, I didn't know he wrote this book, but I knew that Eric had been ill. Eric and I were high school friends and buddies. Eric and I played hockey together, we went to the high school band together, and we were friends. And when I looked at this book, I started to read this magnificent book, which is in the front of the room, and I started to cry. Oh my God. And Neil said to me, Lawrence, we'd like to raise about $25,000 by selling the book for the doctor's research. And I looked at him, I said, you know something, Neil, I think there's something different. There's something more here than what you're looking for. I think you can do a lot more than just raise money for research. And I said, you know what, why don't we go to the hospital, let's talk to the foundation, let's talk to Hope and Cope, and let's see what we can come up with. Personally, I had just gone through something like that not that many years before. My wife also had cancer, and I found out 3 months after our youngest child was born. And I was in a situation where I was faced with, how do I tell my children? That was the reason Eric wrote the book, but I'm not going to steal Eric's thunder. He's going to explain that to you. And all I can tell you is that 4 years later, our dreams came true. We created our famille. We've done some unbelievable things. We've helped some people, a lot of people, and it's just the beginning. So I'm going to ask Eric to come up here. I want you to meet a real live hero, Eric Gralnick.
Because I'm almost 57. Everybody, thank you so much for coming out this evening on a Wednesday night in February. We really appreciate it. 4 months ago, when we began the planning process for tonight, we couldn't decide whether to hold the evening on Valentine's Day or the day before. And finally, we settled on February the 13th, figuring that the real romantics will go out again tomorrow night. And for the rest of us, having been out the night before, we have a built-in excuse to stay home and watch the hockey game. Woo! We never planned for the possibility of being diagnosed with cancer. We all know someone who knows someone with cancer, yet we live in a perpetual state of blissful denial. But when cancer does strike, we are shocked, confused, angry, frightened, and we're numb. The initial diagnosis begins a long and challenging journey, a very personal journey. Cancer is very personal. In October of 2000, at the age of 44, with a wife, a 12-year-old daughter, and 7-year-old twins, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Over the course of the next 9 months, I was subjected to chemotherapy and radiation therapy until I was brought to a state of remission. Then in October of 2002, I was re-diagnosed with very aggressive cancer in my bone marrow. I was given a 20% chance of survival. For the next 18 months, I endured a very aggressive regime of chemotherapy, radiation therapy, high-dose beat chemo in advance of an autologous stem cell transplant, and then 6 months of immunotherapy. The disturbing medical terminology for this was salvage treatment. I endured the full gamut of side effects that sometimes seemed worse than the treatments themselves. One day, well into my second year of treatment, as I was leaving the hospital, coming down the elevator, there was a man who came on to the elevator on crutches, and he had a cast from the top of his thigh to the tip of his toe. And I remember thinking to myself, that lucky bastard. In February of 2004, I completed my full course of treatments. I describe my physical and emotional state as having gone into a meat grinder as a piece of filet mignon and come out the other side as a piece of carnazzo. But in the end, I was grateful to have come out at all. The terror that I felt throughout the years of illness, and then well into my years of remission, was very personal. Cancer is very personal. After surviving my years of illness, I wrote a children's book entitled When Daddy Got Sick. It's a story of a family living through the father's cancer experience as told by the young son. Writing the book was a cathartic experience. It allowed me to explore my grief and create something positive to offset the suffering that I had imposed upon my family. Then, as Lawrence described, serendipity coupled with coincidence brought four people, Lionel Susan, Neil Mardinger, Lawrence, and myself together, and a little over 3 years ago, we created famille. Just as a person receives a diagnosis of cancer from the doctor, there's a very strange phenomenon that occurs. You see the doctor's mouth moving, but you don't hear the words. You're deaf. Your brain is on overload trying to process the horrible news. You are already thinking, what will I tell the children? How will we cope as a family? With the support of famille, young families no longer need to do this alone. Famille is a hope and cope program at the Jewish General Hospital Siegel Cancer Center that is dedicated to offering professional support and resources for young families living with cancer. Our primary goal is to help meet the daily needs of parents diagnosed with cancer through direct aid. We provide them with the tools, information, emotional and financial support that they need in order to manage the impact of cancer on their lives and especially on the lives of their children. Famille est un programme de l'organisme L'Espoir, c'est la vie du Centre du Ségal de l'Hôpital Général Juif à Montréal. Notre principal objectif consiste à permettre aux parents atteints du cancer de subvenir à leurs besoins quotidiens grâce à une aide directe. Nous leur proposons les outils, les informations, ainsi que le soutien financier et moral nécessaire afin de les aider à gérer l'impact du cancer dans leur vie et dans leur vie de leurs enfants. Among other things today, famille provides recently diagnosed patients with a cancer support kit, which includes valuable and timely information. In part, it suggests how to introduce the subject of cancer to your children in an age-appropriate manner. Because what you might say to a 10-year-old, you probably would not say to a 5-year-old. In addition, it provides a glossary of cancer-related terminology that will be likely unfamiliar to the children. The kit also provides a list of community resources, an extensive bibliography, and a copy of the Daddy Got Sick book. All our services are available both in English and in French. We have a keen understanding that despite being sick, our clients are parents first, and as such, they need to continue to invest their energy being parents. That is why at famille, we focus on the basic daily needs of family. Nothing is more fundamental than food. In addition to providing families with grocery coupons, a year ago we began a pilot project where we provide home-cooked meals delivered to their homes so that the patients have nutrition and they don't have to deal with it themselves. We give them a little reprieve. The program has had a wonderful response, and it's the cornerstone of what we're doing in the future. Often family-specific crises arise that have either been created by or exacerbated by a diagnosis of cancer. To help address these problems, famille operates a direct aid discretionary fund in order to help resolve the problems in a timely and dignified manner. For example, famille runs a children's support group where kids of diagnosed parents can meet together and express their feelings. Famille has hosted summer afternoon barbecues for patients and their families in an informal and relaxed setting so they can escape the thoughts of cancer for a few hours. In advance of treatment, we had a young woman who wanted to preserve her embryos. En famille paid for their storage. A 7-year-old son of a patient was struggling in school. We donated a computer and paid for special tutorial software. As a result of radiation therapy, a patient required dental procedures. En famille financed that. As a result of cancer treatments, patients often face financial crisis. That seems to be a common denominator. They can't work and they fall into a financial crisis. En famille has paid rent, we've paid hydro bills, we've purchased back-to-school equipment for the kids, we've purchased tunics and uniforms, we bought a grad dress for a 17-year-old high school girl, we've paid for soccer programs and daycare. There was a client who needed a bone marrow transplant whose sister lived in Virginia. Neither of them could afford to pay the flight to bring the sister to Montreal. En famille brought her to Montreal. There was a mom who was palliative but wanted to see her daughter bat mitzvah. We paid for the bat mitzvah. A few weeks ago, as I was chasing my friends and family for ticket sales for this event, working way outside my comfort zone, privately I felt as though I was harassing everybody, and I probably was. And then we received an email from Lawrence, and I'm just going to read part of it. I ran into a woman whom I know where I get my hair cut. She has 2 young children. She was recently diagnosed with breast cancer and went through chemo at the Jewish. I offered to get her our book when Daddy got sick. As I started to tell her the story about Eric, she started to cry. She told me that one day when she was sitting in the chair having her chemo treatment, someone gave her the En famille kit with the book. She said that she read the book with her young children over and over and over. She said it was a godsend. She said that her children were lost and that she did not know how to explain her cancer to them. I got all numb and tingly and couldn't stop smiling. So when you're hesitating to ask someone for a donation to help us continue the work that we're doing, think of this story and you'll be amazed how easy it is to ask. Friends, we don't get any government sponsorship, we don't get any government funding, we don't get any hospital funding. We're sustained by your generosity, and we're grateful for that support. The bond of kinship that's created between cancer patients and cancer survivors is quite remarkable. As patients, we see others that have gone through the battle, and it gives us hope. As survivors, we feel a responsibility to provide moral support for those that are currently doing battle. I've become friends with a young lady named Jackie Gold. 5 years ago, she was diagnosed with leukemia. In 2012, she was re-diagnosed. Since October, Jackie has been at Maisonneuve-Rosemont Hospital, coping with the challenging side effects of a successful bone marrow transplant. In my entire life experience, I've never met a more courageous, tough-minded, positive person. It's a privilege to call Jackie my friend. Jackie's in the hospital today and couldn't come tonight, but she did the next best thing. She sent her mom, my friend Carol. Jackie's birthday is in 2 weeks, and tonight I dedicate this evening to Jackie. She'll be turning 29. The battle is very personal. The kinship is very personal. The support is very personal. The hope that we create is very personal. Cancer is very personal. Thank you.